seeing. The other thing that I really like with the McPhee essay is that it kind of depends on you understanding Monopoly to get what he's going for. If you don't, the structure itself seems a little counterintuitive. It seems a little bit off. But if you actually have some familiarity with the board itself, it works really well. That's a lot to depend on a reader, and I think that's maybe why it kind of alienated some people. But I actually think it's kind of a great move. I think it works really well. But it's a risky move because you've already eliminated a lot of your audience because of that. So, but it's something to think about. The the essay itself is just so weird, and it's doing some great things. The thing that I want to talk about actually this week with this is something that needs to hold together your whole essay, which we're going to call a real subject. Okay. Now, there's the trigger subject and the real subject. Now, the trigger subject is what actually happens. It's the plot of the essay, and the real subject is the theme of the essay. Okay. Now, you can also think of the real subject as kind of to use another writing term, it's a thesis statement for the essay itself. Although for object essays, you're not going to state this thesis statement. It's going to be something that's underlying the entire essay, but it's never explicitly stated. Okay, unlike in argument essays, which we're going to work on later, where you explicitly state your thesis statement. But another way to look at it is if you go to a movie and you're in the theater, and the questions that you ask in the middle of the movie, which please don't ever do that because you're a horrible person if you do that. But the questions you ask in the middle of the movie, almost always those are referring to trigger subjects. Okay, what you're asking things like, who's that guy? Why did she just kill him? I don't know. Maybe I'm revealing too much about what kind of movies I watch. But the stuff that you talk about in the parking lot on the way to the car, that's almost always referring to the real subject, to the themes. That's what each one of these essays has to have, something that kind of holds it together that's bigger than just what's happening on the page. Now, I hope you can find those things. There's a great, actually he's a comic book writer, his name's Dennis O'Neil, who said if you don't, I'm going to paraphrase this, but it's essentially he said unless you really like revising, you should have a good idea what your essay is actually about when you start writing it. Okay, and the same thing kind of goes with this real subject. You need to know what this essay is actually about as you go through and put it together, and then it will all kind of hopefully fit together. Now, in my face-to-face classes, I've taught this for a few years. This McPhee essay, and they always really struggle finding what the real subject is. I think it does have one. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I want you to think about it. I want you to try and find it. Okay, so make sure that what I would start doing is, so hopefully last week what you started to do was put together a few scenes that are interesting to you, a few scenes that kind of orbit around that actual object that you're choosing to write about. And hopefully that went well. Now what you need to do is you need to start organizing them with a theme in mind, and then you also need to start to get in there and do some research. And here's what I say about the real subject as it relates to research. I just said that you can't say explicitly what your theme is in your essay, but you can get somebody else to state it. Find somebody who has said something about your object that relates to your theme and put that in the text and see if that will work. The other question I often get about these essays is how much of it needs to be research and how much of it needs to be personal story. I don't have an exact fraction down, but if you look to Caitlin Matheson's essay, that's an essay that was turned in for this assignment. She's got a decent ratio, but if you want it, I'll give you a fraction just because you're out there and I don't know how else to relate to you. If you want a specific fraction, I would say about 3/4 of it should be personal, about 1/4 of it should be researched. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so we talked about McPhee's essay. Okay, hopefully that helps. Now I want to briefly about John Madden, or not John Madden. Wow, I've been playing too many video games. Patrick Madden's essay briefly. Okay, so Patrick Madden's essay, a lot of you, this one was interesting to me because this one was maybe even more split than even the sorry, Wolf's essay, which always splits audiences. People either love it or hate it. But you guys also had really strong emotions about this, and that's interesting to me. I think this is by far the most contemporary thing that we're reading for the examples on this essay. I don't think this is very. I think this is only a couple years old. And some of you wrote about how his style seems almost conversational, and he's worked hard to do that. The thing about that I find interesting about Patrick Madden is that he is really concerned about actually getting back to the original definition of essaying, about this idea of actually asking questions. I just talked about real subject and some of those things. That is something that he is not interested in doing at all. It's the essay itself is very much the process. It's very much going through it. He mentions his essay, which is probably my favorite essay, which you could find if you wanted to look for it. The essay on laughing. It's actually called Laughing, and actually how he organized that was it's just a whole bunch of what we call vignettes, which is just small scenes about laughing. It includes research, it includes personal experience, including the one he mentioned here of his daughter laughing on the bed. But it's really not organized by anything. I think that's infuriating to some readers. To some others, it's really refreshing. I actually want you to be a little bit more organized than that. I want you to have a real subject in mind as you go through these. But the thing that I wanted you to get out of this essay, which I already mentioned in the actual assignment description, was this idea that you need to pick things that actually matter to you in these essays. If you don't care about it, I promise you, I am never going to care about it. And I tend to give essays I don't care about not very good grades. Okay? Don't try and guess what I'm interested in. I've already told you I'm interested in fly fishing and different things like that. If you write an essay on fly fishing, it will probably do very poorly because I know a lot about it. So just avoid that topic altogether. But write about something that you're really interested in, and there's a good chance that I will also be interested in it. Okay. Briefly, I'm not going to even bring up the essay, but the Wolf essay as well is just I wanted to do that one. A lot of you like tacked on to the fact that she did commit suicide, which she did. Which is really sad, but. Hopefully that didn't cloud you from actually enjoying the essay. Or not enjoying it, which was the case for many of you, which is fine. But the real thing that I wanted to get out of that is how she actually describes it. Now, you all know this, I think anyway, most of you should, that she's writing from a very different time, and that aesthetic is a little bit harder to relate to now. That doesn't mean it's a bad aesthetic at all, actually. I think Virginia Woolf is pretty amazing, but it's different. So yeah, I mean, keep that in mind. She's a late Victorian, early modernist, and she's writing with a lot of those ideals in her head. But the actual descriptions, the way that she actually goes about it, is very great. One thing I wanted to mention as you go through and start to do these essays, the best advice I can give you for this week is. Remember this, that good writing happens in the nouns and the verbs, okay? It doesn't happen in the adjectives or the adverbs, okay? It happens in the nouns and the verbs. And if you go through and you look at that, at Virginia Woolf's essay, it's very much so noun and verb heavy. That's what I want you to be doing too. Okay. Now, verbs or nouns are easy, right? I mean, the person, places, or things. You know, every essay is going to have a lot of that. But I want you to get as specific as you can. Know the name of things. It's very important to know the name of things. Okay. The other thing that I would say with that is you should also focus in on the verbs. Okay. Now, the most common verbs that we use are to be verbs, which are be, is, am, were, am. I'm missing some. But those are the most common verbs, and because they're the most common, they're also the most boring. You need to try and eke those out of your vocabulary when you're writing. if you do, your writing will be much better. With that said, sometimes they are the best word for the sentence or whatever, but for the most part, if you can get those out of your writing, it's the best thing you can do. Okay, so work on that. Good writing happens in the nouns and the verbs. Okay, another thing that I want you to keep in mind as you write these essays is that you need to never make stuff up. The one of the golden rules for this class is DMSU, and that stands for don't make stuff or something else up. Okay. One of your readings, I can't remember who it was, but somebody changed the perspective of something that they did. It was looking at a basketball or something like that, which was fine, especially for that description. That was fine. But in the actual essays, it's always more interesting in my mind to approach it from your perspective. Okay, I had a great teacher who once said, if the door was yellow but you want it to be red, don't change the door to being red. Talk about why you want it to be red. If that makes sense, okay? You can step out and you can actually muse on those things, and it will give your writing greater depth, and I think that's an important thing. So whenever you're tempted to make something up, if it's not exciting enough, or if you just are uncomfortable writing something true, then you need to pick something else to write. It's essential that these things actually be true. Of course, I'm never going to know whether or not they're true. I can, truth has a certain ring to it, and fiction has another ring to it, and I can kind of tell sometimes, but I'll never know for sure. But you'll know, and hopefully that's enough to persuade you to not go that route. But anyway, okay. So don't make stuff up. Okay. A couple other things I want to mention. I didn't require that you actually respond to the 150 word getting to know you, or the 150 word descriptions, but I do think you should all go and read those because they work as great getting to know you activities. Okay, it's hard to really form a community in an online setting, but I think that's a way to do it, is to kind of go and look at those and see what people are writing about, because they're writing interesting stuff. So be sure to do that. Couple more things. One more thing that I realized that I made a mistake on was that I basically had you, for your reading blogs, I had you have your response to the reading blog and then your response to your peers do at the same time, and that doesn't make a lot of sense because you'll need time to actually let your peers get those assignments up. Especially last week, it seemed like everybody was waiting until Friday to get them up, which is fine. So I'm going to actually move the due date, and I actually did this in the writing here. Let's find out where that was. Okay, so if you go in here and you look at the reading blog, okay. Give it a second. I'm using a slower computer than I did last week, so sorry about that. If you look here, I actually changed it to receive full credit on your reading blog post, 150 word response to the readings, and thoughtfully respond to 3 of your peers by the following Sunday at 11:55 p.m. Just so you know, my basic schedule, how I'm going to go about doing this is Monday mornings are when I'm going to read those things, and so I want you to have them done by Sunday at 11:55. And if you do that, you should be fine. So, your blog, your initial responses are still due Friday at midnight, but your blog responses are due, or your peer responses are due at 11:55 p.m. on Sunday. Okay. Let me just make sure I got everything down that I wanted to. Okay, yeah, I think I went over everything that I wanted to. I apologize this week for not having an exciting backdrop. I guess I could make a PowerPoint or something, but that's just not my style. So I'll see what I can do to liven this up, and so you're not just staring at the same screen the whole time, but we'll see. If you have any questions, please email me at russ.beck@usu.edu, and I'll get right back to you on those. And good luck. I'm so excited to read your essays. I can honestly say that. So, okay, good. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'll see you online. Thanks.